They said the brood queen was unbreakable, a living storm of claws and fire, who ruled her hive with fear sharper than any blade. Entire species trembled when her shadow passed. But even the fiercest queen had something more precious than her throne. Her daughters, 3 brood princesses, each destined to inherit her empire, vanished without a trace inside her own fortress. No broken walls, no blood, no screams, just silence and the gnawing terror that her dynasty had been ripped away. Her guards searched every chamber, every tunnel, every crevice. They found nothing, until a whisper spread like venom. The human, that fragile, soft-skinned servant they barely noticed. They stormed his quarters expecting betrayal, murder, chaos. What they found instead made the hive freeze. The princesses weren't prisoners. They weren't crying for help. They were curled against the human's chest, clinging to him, purring in their sleep, as if he were their shield, their comfort, their chosen protector. And when the queen demanded answers, when her claws rose to tear him apart, her daughters hissed, not at the human, but at her. That was the moment the galaxy realized something impossible had just begun. The Seraph Hive Palace never slept. Its halls trembled with the marching of clawed feet, the hiss of steam vents, and the guttural chants of guards swearing oaths to their broodmother. Brood Queen Valus had ruled for 3 cycles of Blood Suns, crushing rivals, enslaving species, and cementing herself as a terror whose name carried across the stars. But in one night, her empire trembled. Her daughters were gone. Nyra, Silith, and Belkeen, the brood princesses armored in obsidian chitin, claws sharper than knives, the future of her dynasty, vanished without a trace. The nursery chambers lay silent, their nutrient pools undisturbed. No intruder had broken in. No scent of blood marked the air. Only the haunting absence of 3 lives that should never have been unguarded. Valus roared, the sound rattling the hive. Find them, tear apart the palace. Any who fail me will be fed to the acid pits. The search swept through tunnels and chambers. Every servant, soldier, and drone was interrogated. Still nothing, until whispers surfaced. The human. Valus had nearly forgotten about the strange off-worlder. Elias, a fragile biped with no armor, no claws, no venom. He had been permitted into the hive only because his mechanical skills had proven oddly efficient with ship repairs. He obeyed orders, kept his head low, spoke little. Harmless, or so she thought. The trail of pheromone scents told a different story. It led not to hidden tunnels or rival agents. It led to the servant quarters. The guards stormed down, ready to shred Elias to ribbons. They tore open his chamber door and froze. Inside, Elias slept on a crude bunk, one arm draped limply over his chest. And curled against him, nestled as though the most natural thing in the galaxy, were the 3 brood princesses. Nyra clutched his arm, her mandibles twitching softly as if soothed by his heartbeat. Silith rested her armored head against his chest. Belkeen sprawled across his legs, claws carefully folded so as not to cut him. They were asleep, not caged, not harmed. Asleep. When the guards tried to move, the princesses stirred and hissed, protective, hostile, toward their own blood guard. By the time Elias was dragged before the throne, the hive was a maelstrom of confusion. He stood small beneath the towering form of Valus, her jagged mandibles spread in fury. "You dare," she snarled, "to steal my daughters. Explain why they cling to you like brood to their mother." Elias swallowed hard. His voice cracked. "I didn't steal them. They just came to me." The chamber erupted in hisses. "Lies," they shouted. "Trickery." But then, before the queen could strike him down, Nyra stepped forward. She pressed her armored brow to Elias's side. Silith and Belkeen joined her, clinging tight. The brood princesses had chosen. The throne room fell into stunned silence. Valus had crushed warlords without hesitation. But this she did not understand. No brood princess trusted outsiders, not even allied species. They were bred for suspicion and violence. Yet here they were, wrapped around a human servant like hatchlings. The queen's mind raced. Either this was manipulation or something unprecedented. "Take him," she ordered. but do not kill him. Yet, Elias was dragged to the ritual chamber, a cavern lit with molten vents. Valus circled him like a predator sizing prey. Her daughters skittered around her, refusing to leave his side. "You will prove yourself human," Valus growled. "If you have ensnared my brood, I will carve your flesh from your bones. If not," her mandibles clicked, "perhaps you are more than you appear." The test began. First came the trial of fear. A beast was unleashed, a hulking Draco, armored in plates, saliva sizzling with acid. Elias froze as it lunged. Before the guards could laugh at his impending death, something strange happened. The brood princesses leapt in front of him. Together they screeched, their resonance shaking the chamber. The Draco, bred to obey hive instinct, recoiled. It slunk back into the shadows, whimpering. Second came the trial of loyalty. Elias was ordered to stand alone. The princesses pulled back by force. When pain lances were aimed at him, he raised his hands not to shield himself, but to beg them to stop hurting the brood princesses. He shouted, voice breaking, "Don't hurt them. They're just children." The guards froze. To call the brood princesses children, as if they were fragile hatchlings, was madness. Yet the word carried weight. Finally came the trial of truth. Elias was bound in sensory webs. Valus herself interrogated him, pressing into his mind with psychic claws. She found no schemes, no poison, no intent of manipulation. Only exhaustion, only honesty, and one memory that made her hesitate. She saw him on his homeworld, cradling a human child, a niece perhaps. He hummed a soft rhythm, a sound like heartbeat and comfort. The brood princesses, attuned to subtle vibrations, must have felt the same resonance in him. They weren't manipulated. They chose him because he reminded them of safety. Valus pulled back, unsettled. Her daughters hissed at her, curling again around Elias. She, the fiercest queen in generations, found herself facing a truth that gnawed at her pride. Her bloodline trusted this fragile creature more than they trusted their own guards. For the first time, Valus did not know whether to roar in fury or in awe. The hive could not hide the truth. Word spread like wildfire through tunnels and beyond. The brood princesses had imprinted on a human. Rival hives mocked. Allies whispered. Enemies sharpened their blades. If the heirs were compromised, the Seric dynasty was vulnerable. Valus considered killing Elias 12 times. But each time, the princesses shrieked in rage, their carapaces glowing with defensive heat. To harm him was to risk losing them. So instead, she watched. Days turned into cycles. Elias became an unwilling guardian. He fed them stranger stories that made the brood princesses chirp in delight. He fashioned small tools and toys, scratching crude designs in stone that fascinated them. When nightmares struck, they crawled into his quarters and curled up against him, soothed by his steady heartbeat. The hive guard sneered, but they couldn't deny results. The princesses grew calmer, sharper, quicker to learn. Their aggression was tempered with cunning. Their training improved. It was as if the human's strange gentleness balanced their natural ferocity. Then came the true test. A rival hive launched a strike, breaching the palace with tunneling machines. Chaos erupted. The guards fought tooth and claw, but one of the enemy war beasts broke through to the inner chambers, where the brood princesses slept. Elias didn't hesitate. Armed with nothing but a broken spear, he stood between them and the beast. The sight would be remembered in hive songs. A fragile human, howling defiance at a monster 3 times the size. The beast lunged. Elias braced for death, but the princesses awoke. Their shrieks shook the stone. They launched together, striking with precision beyond their years. The beast fell, torn apart by claws and mandibles. When the dust cleared, the princesses didn't run to their mother. They ran to Elias, pressing against him, chirping as if he had led them to victory. The hive guard saw. The rivals fled. And Valus finally understood. This human wasn't a weakness. He was the unbreakable thread binding her daughters. Galactic attention soon followed. Ambassadors demanded explanation. Rivals mocked that the fiercest queen had allowed her daughters to be domesticated by a human. But then the princesses fought in the proving arenas. Together, They tore through challengers twice their size. Their bond, strange and unnatural, made them unpredictable. Where other younglings fought with rage, they fought with cunning, pausing, regrouping, flanking with eerie precision. And always their eyes flicked toward Elias, as though drawing strength from his presence. The galaxy took notice. Fear replaced mockery. Valus addressed her court. Her voice thundered. You call it weakness that my daughters trust a human. I call it evolution. The hive adapts. The hive endures. And if a human heartbeat is what makes them stronger, then the galaxy will kneel before the Serac and their chosen guardian. Elias, still bewildered, found himself draped in ceremonial armor, a strange mix of chitin and steel. He was named Shield-Bearer of the Brood, an honor no alien had ever held. He tried to protest. He wasn't a warrior, not a leader. But when Naira hissed softly and nudged his hand, when Scylla pressed her head against his chest, when Velkeen curled around his leg, he realized something undeniable. They had chosen him, and he couldn't abandon them. Years later, songs would echo through the galaxy of the day. The Serac heirs rose to power. They would become queens not only feared but revered, their rule tempered by something alien to the hive: compassion. And at the heart of it all, whispered in awe and fear, was the story of the fragile off-worlder who had dared to stand before a queen, and whom her daughters had curled against, as though the most natural thing in the universe. The hive didn't break. It evolved, and humanity had written itself into legend once more.